Moore's Night in the Electric Ballroom, from Winter Carols, Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, and from, dare I say, the 20th anniversary compilation To the Moon and Back, Writing on the Wall. And it feels like 20 years since I spoke to you, Candice. How are you?
Oh, wow. I can't believe how long it's been, and I can't believe how fast time goes. But, I'm sure you haven't changed at all, Keith, right?
I'm pretty much the same, yes. People, and I know, I'm sure you haven't changed either, right?
No. Well, I've got a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old now, so
I've been hearing
so
about
time
that.
just kind of, yeah. The only reason I realize the time even goes by is when I look at pictures of them from like last year and see how big they're getting every year. So other than that, I feel the same inside. I'm still 16 inside.
Because I know you guys like to be festive and have good times late at night. I guess that's kind of on hold for a while, right?
No, I just get less sleep. I'm still staying up as late as I used to. It's just I'm up earlier in the morning now. So I'm sure it's all going to catch up to me at one point, and I'll sleep for 2 years straight. But I had a good run there, 20 years with Richie, on Musicians Hours. We got to sleep until 12 every day. And I thought, I'm all caught up on sleep. I can do this mothering thing. And, yeah, when you got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning when you've been up till 2 every day, from Monday to Friday.
Right. Well, you can also train them in a way where, they just become insomniacs like you, but, you guys got to get up and rock, and these kids got to get up and go to school too, right?
Exactly. And my kids, well, in the beginning, before they went to school, they were totally on Musicians Hours, and they'd sleep, they would sleep 12 hours straight. So they'd go to bed at midnight, wake up at 12 in the afternoon. And I couldn't really tell my other friends who were all having kids around that time because, their kids were up like every couple of hours. And I'm like, my kids just sleep like 12 hours straight, just like we do. It's awesome. And they were not happy about that. So I had to kind of keep that to myself.
And the one secret that I bet you learned is, by exposing them to music and getting them used to louder noises, they're accustomed to it, so they don't wake up when they hear something loud.
Or they like going to sleep to music, too. They like kind of the noise, before, which is also very helpful when you're touring, of course, because there's so much noise in hotel rooms. And,
right.
Richie will just live on earplugs. And he can, one thing he has to, leave the house with is a giant jar full of earplugs wherever we go. But the kids, they're kind of used to the noise now, so they just blank out any of the noise that's going on in the hotel room. So they get to sleep straight through.
And plus, they go to school and they say to their friends, look, my parents are, Candice and Richie, you know what I'm saying? And I bet a lot of their parents are probably fans of what you guys do as well.
Yeah, it's true, and that's always great. And if they're not fans yet, then they become fans because they're like, okay, well, who's that? And then they look it up, or they've known Richie for so long. Or sometimes we actually had situations where, like, my kids were having having parties, like their birthday parties and things at the local kids' place, like my gym, and like little kids' plays. And of course, Richie comes, and I've had the fathers come up to me and be like, oh my God, I've just put it all together. Like I knew that my son, I got the class list and I saw that he was in class with somebody Blackmore, but I didn't think about it until now I'm at my gym and there's Richie walking around and the guys are all freaking out. It's so funny to watch.
It could be worse where somebody could walk in and, with a guitar and play, Smoke on the Water, and most likely in the wrong key as well. But it also helps you out a lot, too. You get a little, some extra privileges, being Candice Knight and Richie Blackmore.
Well, it's funny because even my daughter has come up to me and she's been like, you know what, Mommy, I told my friend that my parents are my dad's a famous guitarist, and apparently one of her friends is going, well, so is mine. Like trying to live her life, and like they've got that jealousy thing going on, but they're going, yeah, my parents are famous guitarists, they're singers, and meanwhile they're not, which is cool. It's fine whatever they do, but it's just funny how she's like, do you think that everybody I talk to is has the same lifestyle or the same kind of occupation as you guys? And I'm like, you know what, if you find somebody who does what we do, let me know, because
we need friends like that.
We'll form a little parent group, a little alliance.
They're probably talking about their parents who are down the street at the bar playing Scorpions covers, right?
Right, that's possible. It's possible. There's a lot of people that use the music, to escape from their modern day lives and what they're doing, which is awesome. I've seen there's a lot of parents that are dying to play music, and they're really, really good at their instruments. But it's hard to make a living in this in this industry. It's near impossible. So if you can do it,
it's definitely different times. I mean, you can't just be musicians. There's a million other things that go along with the task.
Oh my God, there's so much luck involved, especially now. And I mean, back in the day when Richie first started started. You know, there was a lot of talent, a lot of skill, a lot of individuality, so much creativity. There was a spark. It's like everything had to align. All the stars had to align just perfectly, you know, and there was a lot of amazingly talented musicians that went unnoticed, you know, and...
well, you know, when we all came up, you had to be good. That was the bottom line. I mean,
you had to be good. There was no auto-tune. There was no pitch correct, you know, like in the studio where you press the magic button and all of a sudden anybody can sing or anybody can, you know, there was none of that stuff.
I call it the suck button. You can hit the suck button. It makes you great all of a sudden. It's crazy what's going. I mean, that's why I think any records up to, like, let's say 97 are valid, because anything after that, you know, in auto-tune, I guess Cakewalk was the first thing, right?
Oh my God, it's unbelievable how anything that they can fix in the studio. It's just incredible, the stuff. And you know, you hear the band live and you're like, oh wow, that's what they really sound like. And then it makes you wonder sometimes. You're like, how does that person just go, you know what? I'm a singer. I'm gonna rock this. I'm gonna, like, you know, get out of bed and I'm gonna do this for a living. When I mean, they got to have a pair of ears. You know, they've got to know that sometimes what they're doing is not, you know, sounding right. And yet, I'll tell you, you go in that studio and magic happens, and that's what goes out there to the people. And I don't know. I guess it's different. It's different to be a musician these days than it used to be. That's for sure.
Well, you guys in particular, I mean, you know, you guys could play any kind of venue, you know, from a church to a big rock auditorium. You know, you bring that vibe of, like, you're almost like an 18th century campfire, and you know. You create this really great environment, these good aura, this good vibe. Every time that you guys connect and play as Blackmore's Night, that's something you've been doing right from the beginning and continue to do.
You know that this is the 20-year anniversary of the existence of Blackmore's Night.
I guess the first time you were actually on the show had to have been when Shadow of the Moon came out, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. That's right. So 1997. That'll bring you way back.
Yeah, we've been doing this. It'll be 20 years next year. So I think, you know, you were one of our, you know, like the first couple months.
Had to be one of the first, right? Exactly.
And you know what's cool about it is that you guys, you know, when you first started, I mean, you know, obviously a lot of the Ritchie Blackmore fans were like, you know, upset he put down the Strat, you know, and they're, you know, saying doing the Renaissance thing. But now that's so far in the past. I mean, you have some real hardcore fans that maybe couldn't even tell you about a Deep Purple history. I mean, you know, you guys really earned your stripes and turned it into a whole different thing, a whole other thing, shall I say.
That's true. That's true. And actually, one of Richie's favorite things is when he talks to people and they were like, you know, we didn't even know what you did before. Like, we knew the song "Smoke on the Water" on the radio or whatever, but we didn't realize, you know, what you had done. But we were really into Blackmore's Night, and then they started rediscovering some of his older stuff in Deep Purple. So it's actually gone, you know, the other way, which is really interesting. But he always gets a kick out of that, you know, that people are rediscovering him from this band into other bands too.
Well, you know, it's funny because in an actual situation. Something like that about 4 or 5 years ago, somebody had requested on another thing that I do for Sirius Radio, they were requesting, you know, Blackmore's Night, and I said, they don't really do that on this channel, but, you know, they play Deep Purple, and they're like, yeah, I'm not really familiar with them. I know Ritchie was in that band. And this is not, I'm not saying this to, you know, blow smoke or anything. This legitimately
Isn't that a crazy turnaround, though? Like, you know, because like you said, it took us so many years at the beginning. Well, I think at the beginning he put the Strat down. Well, honestly, when we were writing our songs, which we didn't realize we were going to put out there to the world, we started writing them while the guys from Rainbow were recording Stranger in Us All.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of, you know, at that point, he'd been in the industry, you know, he'd had success since basically 1968. I mean, obviously he was in the industry before that in other bands like the Outlaws and Three Musketeers, Three Musketeers and Lord Sutch and... Mm-hmm. You know, doing sessions for Joe Meek. I mean, history went on. But, you know, by 1995, when he was doing Stranger in Us All with Rainbow, that's when he and I would be sitting there just playing. He would be playing the acoustic guitar, and the guys would be in there doing their backing tracks for the Stranger in Us All CD, and he and I would just be looking out the window in this big old farmhouse, which was the studio. It was Longview Farms in Massachusetts, and watching the snow come down, like 6 feet of snow out there that winter. And we would just be by the raging fireplace looking out the window, totally relaxed, and he'd be playing the acoustic, and that's how a lot of the early songs started. It was kind of like his escape from what the rock world had become. Right. And he'd known the rock world for decades at that point, but it had changed so much. I think at that point, he was with BMG, and he was like fulfilling a contractual obligation, you know, for one more rock album, and he basically, you know, they were telling him, we don't approve of that title, you know, you got to change that title, you got to send in some demos so we can hear the direction you're going. And he's like, demos? I haven't done demos since the 60s. Like, I don't even think I did them then. Well, what are they talking about? And,
right.
and he was so frustrated that, that the corporate entities had them locked down so hard and wanted to approve so many things. These guys in the suits sitting up in their offices that were so out of touch and out of tune with where he was going and what he had done. And, this is a man that created genres of music, He was...
and that was the last kind of stance of the corporation, because shortly after that's when things drastically changed, right?
Yeah, and then the internet started opening up, which was amazing, which is a good thing and a bad thing, obviously.
Yeah,
but,
that's so well said. There's some great things too about it, and there's some things that have really ended a lot of people's careers. The beauty of making an album, all those graphic artists, they don't realize how much it affected the economy with the record business. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And even the simple, like the little things, like being able to hold vinyl in your hands. I know vinyl's starting to make a comeback now, which is
that's all I listen to, by the way. That's
right. I remember when CDs came out, and people were like, "No, the digital sound, it's so much more pristine." And we're like, "Where's the warmth?"
Exactly. It's almost like a beating.
Like, I miss that sound of it. There's something missing.
Do you listen to your own stuff on vinyl? Have you put your stuff out on vinyl?
It's a funny thing, because the record companies, we've been with so many different record companies at this point that they don't even let us know half the time when they're putting out vinyl. And fans keep asking me, when's the vinyl's coming out? Because that's what I'm collecting. That's what I want.
Right.
So a lot of time they don't even let us know, and only when a fan will approach us at a stage door or something and ask us to sign it. I'm like, oh, this one came out on vinyl too. That's great.
You got to go on Amazon and buy it yourself, right?
I know. I think I do. Yeah, the record companies don't tell you much, unfortunately.
Is it true, though? Someone told me that there's actually Blackmore's Night tribute bands.
They're all over the world.
How flattering is that?
It's incredible. I know there's I've seen them in Japan, and what's amazing to me? Some of these countries, a lot of these people don't even speak English or speak English fluently, yet they can get up on those stages and they can sing our songs, all written, in English, obviously. And a lot of people have told me that's actually how they learned English is through the songs and through the music. And I have a friend of mine who's a teacher over in Germany, is a fan, and he's teaching theology over there, and he's teaching a lot of his kids in Germany a lot of the meanings of the words and philosophical views through our songs too. It's amazing how people will use the songs in order to get their own ways and means through, and it's just things that I would never normally have thought about. They bring to the table and go, this is how I use it. And I'm like, wow, I would never have thought of that.
And how cool is that? Keith Roth hanging out with Candice tonight, my co-host in the Electric Ballroom. And right now we're going to check in with Blackmore's Night, revisiting the Rainbow classic, I Surrender. Lazarus from David Bowie's Black Star in the Electric Ballroom. Keith Roth and my old friend Candice Knight, Blackmore's Night. Great to have her on the show, talking about the 20th anniversary of Blackmore's Night. Also at Studio Records at this point, Candice, I bet you guys probably did, I think, at least 10, right?
I think I'm losing track. I don't know, because then there's been compilation CDs that have come out. We've got live CDs that have come out. We've got DVDs that have come out.
And all of it is really, really good. It's been a few years since we actually spoke, but, they do service us. It's always been good. Do you have a favorite at this time? Like, is there, because I know you just put together the compilation To the Moon and Back, but do you ever say, hey, if Noah's waiting for me on the ark outside and I can only grab one Blackmore's Night record, could you actually pick one or no?
Oh, my God, that is so hard. That's like picking your favorite child.
Yeah,
that.
Well, there you go.
And then there's certain songs that, resonate with me on certain days where I'm like, oh, my God, I'm so happy the way that this came out. And, and certain other ones where you're like, we should have changed that. Why didn't we make that one, do this a little bit different or a little better? And, when they're next to each other. So it's a little tricky to pick any individual album. I love Secret Voyage. I think Secret Voyage came out amazing.
That was a good one. The first one that I really, what you guys I thought was great was, the first one was really cool. I really liked that record. Under a Violet Moon, we really dug. I love Fires at Midnight because that kind of introduced a little bit of the dirtier guitars, and it didn't ruin the sound and vibe. It didn't alter it at all. I just, those two, stand out. The Lantern one, oh gosh, excuse me, I can't remember.
Village Lantern. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Village Lantern. That was a great record. One thing about you guys are so consistent. You put on a Blackmore's Night record, you know what you're going to get, and it's all good.
Oh, good, thanks. Well, and you know what I love about it, too, is there's so much variety. I think the people in the beginning, like we were talking before, the guys who said, okay, Richie's put down the Strat. And at the beginning, he had a little bit of the Strat on the first CD, didn't play it much in concert, kind of looked at this more of his acoustic project. And that was pretty brave for him, I think, back in 97.
Yeah, that must have been frightening.
It was, think about how terrifying that must have been for somebody who's been in the industry, known for playing, electric guitar.
Loud.
And just absolutely, and walls of Marshall stacks, and then he gets out, and also, used to trading licks with John Lord. I mean, it's such a different world, such a departure. And then he gets out there with a quiet acoustic band. But now, 20 years in, I mean, and even before this point, he, after probably about 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, he started working the electric guitar back into the set. And what's great about that, to watch him go, is, Richie can never play the same song the same way twice, even if he wants to. And sometimes it drives him crazy that he can't. I'd rather have him this way. I love him this way. Where
trying to relearn his solos and he can't do it, right?
Yeah, totally, because that wound up like being an interesting perspective when he reformed Rainbow, and he's got Rainbow back out on the road for a couple of dates the last couple of years. But, he's like, oh my God, I've got to relearn all these songs from 30, 40 years ago even, with Dio and like all these other songs. He's like, oh, I didn't remember I did this part and that part, and he doesn't like to go back, and he's not a study person, he's not studious. He won't sit there and listen to the old tracks and go, okay, these are the notes that I did in the solo, and he kind of just gives it the same type of vibe, or just feels it.
That's what makes him special. That's what makes him special. It's going to be cool, and it likes to do things off the cuff. I mean,
totally.
Are you guys working on a new record at all at this point?
Usually this time of year, because it's holiday time, we have more, family time. You've been to the Christmas parties. We have our Christmas party.
I've been there.
We
I
light
had a great time.
Beautiful rainbow night.
I know we've never been invited back. I guess we made it.
You got to come back. You got to come. That was not a personal thing. It was just an oversight. Things just get crazy this time of year.
Believe me, I get it. I totally get it. But no, I did experience it, and you and all your great friends and family. It was so much fun. It was a blast, and I know how much the holidays, mean to you. Getting back to you're just talking about compilations, though. Was it tough compiling it because there's so much choice? Did you and Richie get in arguments like what should be on this compilation, any of that kind of stuff?
Well, we don't usually argue about the music side of things. Because you know what, I look at it like this. He's had so many years in the industry. The man's a genius. I mean, really. I'm like, he'll come to me if he wants opinions or, perspective, and he's like, well, what do you think about this or that? And we'll hash things out. We'll talk about it, and we'll try to figure stuff out. But we don't really get into drag down fights about it, because we're great communicators. We'd rather talk about stuff. And I think that's one of the reasons Blackmore's Night has been around for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
We don't kind of get inspiration from friction. I know, in the old bands, he, in the beginning, everything was amazing for all of those bands. And then, slowly the years go on and the egos kind of get involved. And by the time I was around in 93 and I went on the road with them, I mean, I met him in 89, but when I went on the road with Purple and him, everybody was traveling in separate limos. Right. Everybody was staying in their own separate hotels across the city. And there was no camaraderie. So he's back to having that amazing camaraderie now on stage. And he's, you can tell he's having a really good time out there.
Well, you guys definitely love each other, because not only you go on the road together, and then when you get home, and usually you get a break from the guys for a while.
Oh no!
You guys are going right back together.
Yeah, and there's no break. There's no okay, clock in 9 to 5. See you later, honey. Kiss him at the door, and he goes, or I do, and we go to our jobs. We're right around each other all day long, 24/7, and we still like each other. We still talk to each other. So go figure. It's been almost 30 years, right? So we're doing something right. I don't know.
And you know what? You can still hear the excitement in your voice, the way you speak about, Richie, and I know he speaks the same way about you. That's really a special thing that you guys found each other.
Yeah, it really, and it's amazing how things work, when you think your life is on a specific, path, and then all of a sudden something happens and you wind up taking a total left turn, and you're out in the field somewhere, and you're like, oh, how did I wind up here? And, but in retrospect, you wouldn't have changed not one thing. It's just amazing.
Well, you guys, in my opinion, couple of the year, I'm going to give you guys couple of the year in 2017.
I'll take it. Thank you. I love that. Thank you. But how we wound up actually compiling this, especially for To the Moon and Back, is we went to social media. Now, Richie, you can imagine, doesn't do social media.
I can't see Richie on Facebook talking to his fourth grade buddy.
No. No, if he's going to talk to his buddy, it's going to be on the phone. It's going to be old school. But he doesn't even do cell phones at this point. I'm like,
I'm envious of all of that. Envious of everything you just said.
Right? Because wouldn't you just like to unplug and just get away from all that stuff that of being constantly available and bombarded all the time, right?
It's the worst thing ever. Everything becomes a responsibility in life, and it's cool that he's able to just say to heck with that. If I want to talk to somebody, you're not being tracked. It was like you were talking before about when the internet introduced music. It's the same thing. There is definitely some good things to it to promote your band and get the word out there, but there's a lot of bad with it as well.
Absolutely.
A lot of freaky people out there, too.
Totally. And, it's funny because at one point I bought him a cell phone, and I'm like, listen, here, if you ever, if you break down, if you ever need me, whatever, it's an emergency. You could just use it as an emergency situation. And ironically, his car broke down not too far from my house, like probably about a mile and a half, 2 miles from here. So I'm at home. I'm doing the stuff I got to do at home, and it's 90 degrees out, and all of a sudden the door opens, and Richie comes in, and he's completely sweating, and I'm like, and he's not in a good mood. I'm like, what happened to you? And he's like, the car would not start. And I'm like, why didn't you just call me on your cell phone? He's like, I couldn't figure out how to use the cell phone, so I walked home. I'm like, well, what's the point of having it in an emergency situation? What are you going to do? Hit someone with it? Like throw something? Like what? A cell phone? At this point, I'm sure he's just going to send out like carrier pigeon or smoke signal. But it is. He just completely does not mesh with modern day technology at all.
Get him a beeper.
Yeah, I should do a beeper. Yeah, there's got to be some way we can communicate if we need each other like that. But at the same time, he's got this Mercedes, 92 Mercedes. Guys with their cars, he loves it. He's got such a strong relationship with it. But there's something wrong with it, and he said he can't drive it to any place that he can't walk back from.
After that thing, it makes sense. But generally, those good cars held up. I'm surprised the Mercedes didn't start. That's a first.
I know, and we brought it to so many people, and nobody can figure it out. So, one step away from making it into a planter so he can still, have it with him whenever he wants to see it. But,
does he still have the Lamborghini?
Be able to drive it.
Does he still have the Lamborghini?
No, he doesn't have a Lamborghini. He never had a Lamborghini.
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I was in your garage. It was a red car. I thought it was a Lamborghini or a Pantera.
Yeah, that's our Mercedes. That's the one. That's
the same one.
That's the same one, baby.
Wow.
Same one. Had that since 1992.
That's crazy.
Loved it.
Are you still in the same place?
You were still in the same place, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great house. I mean, I want to talk to you a bit about Ghost of John. You were talking about your kids. I mean, you got a soon-to-be rock star, vocals of Autumn Blackmore.
Yes.
That was brilliant, and that must have been very cool and maybe somewhat emotional.
Yes, it is emotional. But now let me ask you a question. Have you heard that? Like, are you like born and bred in New Jersey, or did you move there?
No, I was born and bred in New York City. Well, actually, the Bronx. I've been in Jersey at this point probably 30 years.
Wow. Okay. Now, when you were a kid growing up, did you ever sing the song Ghost of John in school like Halloween time?
It's funny because when I got the track, I was thinking about that, but no, I don't think I did.
No, and you know what? Being here on Long Island, I'm born and bred on Long Island. I'm a hot pot girl originally. I never heard the song, never knew anything about it. Yet the more people I talked to, my violinist Claire, Texas girl, she's like, oh my God, we used to sing this every single year in school at Halloween. And more people I talked to around, people in Connecticut used to sing it. So all of these people knew the song. I never heard it. I was never brought to I never heard it in school at all.
I think it was outlawed in New York for a while.
Right? Apparently it's a thing. I don't know. It's a thing that, even overseas they're singing it. Like, I'm getting, emails from people in the UK. So, it's considered a traditional. And my daughter went to acting, singing, dancing class last year, and she brought this home and sang it for us, and that was it. Richie was like, oh my God, you've got to sing it again. He made her sing the song about 100 times, which really is no big deal for my daughter because she wakes up singing about brushing her teeth in the morning and what she wants for breakfast that morning and how she's not going to sleep that night, like ever. Like she wants to stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning, and everything's a song. She breaks into song all the time. And ironically, she wrote her first song that I captured on video when she was 1.5, and I was doing laundry upstairs, and she was sitting in a big rocking chair with her dolls, and she just completely spur of the moment just made up the lyrics and the music all at once, was just singing this song to her dolls. And I videotaped it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she just, like, this came out of nowhere, and it was
runs
beautiful.
In the family.
I'm sorry?
It runs in the family.
It's amazing. I don't remember. I mean, look, I'm the first one to make our lives into a musical and be completely ridiculous and break into song in the middle of, a grocery store or something to my kids. Like, I'm all about that. We have the best time just breaking into song.
I want to go food shopping with you.
You come along. It's an experience you'll be never had before and will never have again. That's for sure. But life is fun. You can make it fun. We enjoy the moments. And I videotaped her, and I actually took the song down to my producer when he came, and we were doing Blackmore's Night stuff. And I had an album. I made an album called Starlight Starbright.
Oh, I do remember that. That was a really cool record. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And the song on there called Lullaby in the Night is Autumn's song. I mean, if you look on it, she's credited on it. She's the one who made up the lyrics and the music. I didn't make up any of that. We just added kind of like the fairy dust on it and polished it up a little bit. And I sang the words that she wrote to her melody line. And then we did a video for it. I'm sitting on the moon, and she's actually starring in the video, too. And she was, 4 years old at that point.
Does she like to come out and see you guys any chance she can get as well? Like, she
they love it. Both my kids. Both my kids love it, and they've been doing it since they were 1. Right. Wherever we go, they come on the road with us. Wherever we go, they're little traveling gypsies. So
obviously, they take it all in like a sponge. They're watching you guys, and it really resonates with them, and they're starting to create their own thing with it. There's no doubt that both your kids are, they're definitely going to be doing music, maybe as a career.
The only tricky thing is when I've said to Autumn, do you want to be a singer when you get older? She's like, I don't know if I want to, because I don't want other people telling me what to sing. So I want to do my own. I'm like,
I love that. That's very.
And she came up with that when she was 5. And my son is a drummer. He's like total drummer. He's just been doing some lessons with John Marcelli from Meatloaf.
Right. So
he used to be in Rainbow, too. He did some dates with us in Rainbow, and we reconnected. And so it's going to be, I'm sure one day we're going to be opening for my kids.
Or economically, they'll become part of Blackmore's Night, so, you'll get a good deal on the drummer and the background singer.
There you go, because that will save on hotel rooms. We can all stay in one room.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Yeah,
I wish I was your kid.
That'd be perfect. Well, the funny thing about my kids, since they've been coming on the stage with us since they were 1, and you can actually see Autumn come on, she's so cute. She was about 18 months old, and she came on the stage in England during A Night in York, the DVD we had. It was in World of Stone. And I was singing and playing, and Richie apparently saw her on the side of the stage watching us, and he brought her out. And she's like, just learning how to walk, and this little thing walks out there, and we're doing our thing. And so it's actually on YouTube, and it's in the Night in York DVD, too, so you could see that, which is pretty cool.
People can get all your stuff on Amazon, I guess. Do you have a website where everything is in one place? I guess Amazon would be the best way to get all the Blackmore's Night, the DVDs.
Yeah, Amazon's the place. Actually, we still have the .com sites, and we're on Facebook everywhere, and Instagram, Twitter, but everything, like even the .com sites lead you, as far as merchandise is concerned, when it comes to CDs, leads you to Amazon or iTunes. So yeah, those are the two places we can always rely on to get our stuff.
What's cool is, distribution's an easy thing in this day and age.
Yeah, online. Yeah, it is.
Well, Candice, with all this talk about, your daughter and the track Ghost to John, we're going to play it right now. Ghost to John featuring Autumn Blackmore, lead vocals from the 20-year compilation of Blackmore's Night Ballroom. Keith Roth and my good friend, Candice Knight. Great catching up with you, Candice. And I know how much this time of the year means to you and Richie. Perfect opportunity for you people to pick up winter carols, get you into that holiday spirit instantaneously. Winter carols from Blackmore's Night. I know for you and Richie, I think right after Thanksgiving, you guys are in the holiday spirit full force.
Yeah, we do. We switch right over, actually. And Richie's a great decorator, as I'm sure you remember when you came out here.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
He converts the whole house. I mean, it's amazing what it's really true magic. Every single room, and he loves it. He brings the ladders out, and he's up there balancing, putting up the big red bells and the rainbow lights on all the garland all over the house. And the house is just absolutely magical this time of year. So the saddest thing is taking it down. Right
after New Year. I remember being at your house and eating so much pasta that I went into a room and I'm just kind of laying on the couch and unbuckling, and then Richie walked in and, the fireplace was there and he says, no, relax, get cozy. He said, he's such a, like a romantic kind of guy,
Yeah, he can be. It's a funny thing, too, because he always keeps the lights really low. Even, when we have new bulbs in, he's up there, coloring them with Sharpie marker, red marker, just to make some red bulbs. So there's not a lot of light in my house, which, I guess comes part and parcel with, living with the Prince of Darkness. So you have to expect it.
I remember a quote from him when he used to say when he was a kid, he used to love singing Christmas carols and get a little money for it, but he goes, now he could make more money by playing it.
Well, that's true, but then you got to chase down the record companies and the publishing companies.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
You're better off just doing it for yourself and enjoying the moments.
Have you guys been playing? Have you been doing dates?
Well, we do. Every year we do Blackmore's Night dates, but we usually do them overseas. We're trying to work on more over here, in America. God, it's a huge territory, though, so we got to chip away a little bit at a time. And especially in this crazy day of, with the traveling, it's he's not a big fan of getting on a plane and going place to place to place. He'd rather, that's why he does over in Europe so often. Yeah. He'd rather just get on that one plane, travel overseas, and then you can pretty much drive to
Wherever he needs to get to.
Yeah, the different countries and stuff are easier to hit at that point. So we do a lot in the Northeast, go down the coast a little bit. I think the furthest down we've been is basically North Carolina.
Right. Well, plus, you like you said, you got kids, you got a family, they got school, they got other things shaking on, a lot more responsibility. But, I do want to talk to you a little bit about Rainbow. You guys, put out a couple live records, and you were involved in that. You were singing part of that whole thing. Was that fun? Was it great fun for you guys?
Oh, my God. I had so much fun. I was so excited. I mean, I would have been, supporting of him, either way, whatever way he wanted to go with anything. But when he asked me to do the backing vocals on Rainbow, I was just over the moon because, I really lived on the early Dio days of Rainbow for a good 2 years when I got those albums in my hand when I was a teenager.
Oh, Rainbow Rising and Long Live Rock and Roll.
Oh, my God, so good.
So good.
Stargazer, really?
Oh, yes.
I mean, do you get better than Stargazer?
I remember one time I was listening to Tarot Woman. I came home from a keg party. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't, I was in my room, and that beginning where it builds up,
yes,
And I never forget my father kicked in the door. He actually thought I was performing some kind of ritual in the house. I probably came back from a kegger. I put the record on, didn't realize how loud it was. He thought it was like, it was one of the funniest moments ever. I'm just
oh my God. I feel like we all had those moments with our parents, but for some reason mine were like that with Rainbow tracks too. Like I would, if I was pissed off at my parents, I'd go into the room and just like close, slam the door and just turn on Rainbow and just on 10, on 11, and they would take that for a couple of minutes and then I'd get the same thing with the door being kicked in. My dad actually smashed one of my albums with a baseball bat at one point. So.
I've been down that road.
Right? So I know, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, no, absolutely. But I mean, you as a singer, and you're a great singer, you put your own stamp on it. You definitely can hear some of your influences, which everybody does. Were you singing before you met Richie? Were you out there like playing in bars and clubs, any of that stuff?
No, I wasn't. But you know what? I did like acting, singing lessons when I was a little kid. I did like the little theater productions, stuff like that. So I had singing lessons like from the age of 4, from an early age. So that kind of, I guess, it honed my ear, to being pitch perfect. And
because you sound great. Richie, I guess, brought it out of you, right?
Well, when I first met Richie, this is how the story went. When I met him, he brought me up to his house in Connecticut, this big old English Tudor house in the middle of the woods, nothing around for miles and miles. Very, very dark. It had a minstrel's gallery, and he was having a party going on. And the thing about Richie was that if he is going to play acoustic guitar at the party, which he'll do, he loves to play, so he's always going to wind up playing at some point, usually at the end of the night. But he wants everybody to give a little bit of themselves if he's going to give a little bit of himself. So at that point, he was like, all right, everybody, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to do a dance? Are you going to, do spoken word poetry? Are you going to, like, what are you going to do? So I was like, well, I could sing a song. Not that I was, like, out there, with the jazz hands up going, let me sing for you. It was nothing like that. I was, like, still kind of tucked away in the corner, like, all right, I guess if I got to do it, I got to do it. And we wound up singing, and he played the guitar, and I sang Theme for Mahogany.
Oh, wow.
A little obscure, right?
No, Diana Ross. I mean, it was great.
Right? You wouldn't have thought it would have been in the repertoire. But, so we both knew that. And also Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Mm-hmm. So he knew I could carry a tune. And not long after that, I wound up moving in with him in 1991.
Wow.
And then I went on the road with him in 93. And at that point in 93, he asked me if I could sing, because I was always singing around, around the hotel room and stuff like that. Never on stage, never formed my own band, never went down that path. I knew I wanted to be around music. Like, I had to, because it was it was like my breath. It was like my religion. It was my great escape from the world. But I thought I'd be working for a radio station.
Well, and I know one of the girls at the Rad, Rockin' Robin Lane.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God, I haven't heard that name. There's another, more than 20 years. Tell her I said I do. I didn't know she was there.
WBAB, right? You used to work
Absolutely. Absolutely, yes. I knew her well from those days, the early days. I was at WBAB from, 1989 to about 1991, so a little more than a year and a half.
So what did you want to do in radio at that point?
You know what I was doing? I was interning. I hit almost every department. I mean, everything from sales and filing stuff away to helping out the on-air DJs to promotions to editing and voiceovers and writing commercials. So all the different departments that are there.
I see them all. I know exactly how they had you rolling.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's so funny because yesterday I was on the phone with a DJ from San Diego who used to work at WBAB, Bob Buckman. I don't know if you know Bob Buckman.
Of course I know Bob, Q104.
Right?
Yeah, I know Bob. I haven't spoke to Bob probably since the 90s. Very cool guy.
Totally, and it's the same deal here. I hadn't spoken to him in so long, and then I get this interview request that he wants to interview me because of, Winter Carols. Wound up talking to him for a long time and doing an on-air interview. He's in San Diego now.
That's
and I'm
crazy.
still, in touch with Tracy Speed. I used to help her out on the on-air stuff, when she needed help. So it's great, to hear like all these old names that are just kind of you just reminisce when you hear all those people that you were working with for so long ago. But when I met Richie, I met him on a soccer field. He, Deep Purple had come to town, asked our people to come and our DJs and whoever wanted to participate to come do a charity match. And so, after the game was over, where his team completely annihilated us because his team was basically all ringers from Europe,
Right.
And we were not the most athletic of DJs and of people, and and I was still standing on the sidelines because, believe it or not, I was too young to play. I was only 18, and they were like, "Nope, you got to sign a waiver," and I'm like, "I'll just stand." So cheering my team on. So afterwards, I went over and I asked him for an autograph, and he looked at me with that English accent, and he said, "Oh, you're a very beautiful girl." And I was walking off. I was like, "Thank you so much," and that was going to be my big Richie Blackmore story, that he said I was beautiful. Isn't that cool? And that was it.
Right.
And he sent the roadie through the crowd to find out who I was and to ask me to meet him later on at a pub, and we talked just all night long about everything that we had in common, and interest in other realms and the paranormal and history and music, and it was just castles, and it just went on until about 5 o'clock in the morning, and we really connected. And that was back in 1989. So I haven't been able to get rid of him since then.
Love at first sight. You guys are definitely meant to be each other. There's no doubt about it. Getting back to the Rainbow thing, like, you were part of that thing. So for you as a kid, being such a big fan, now being on stage and playing these big, enormo domes, as they say.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different thing. That must have been like really exciting for you, even though you've been doing this for so many decades at this point. But that must have been very cool for you.
Well, back when he asked me to do the backup singing for Purple on the Difficult to Cure solo,
right.
that was in 1993. But and that was when Czechoslovakia was still Czechoslovakia and not like split into two separate countries. So I'm dating myself there. But he basically had like a whole bunch of drapes set up and like the curtains and the amplifiers. I was behind all that, so nobody even knew that I was doing that part when he asked me to do it. And then after that, when he and Purple split up, I was doing the backing vocals on his Rainbow stuff and co-writing some of the lyrics in that too. So I got to be around some of it. Well, with Purple, of course, that was 25,000 people at the Purple show. I wasn't on stage, but I was just off the stage and doing the singing thing. So that was kind of the intro to that whole entire thing. But now getting back to it, 20 or more than 20 years later, actually being brought back to where I kind of first started, which is doing the backup singing for Rainbow, like I was doing the backup singing for Rainbow in 1995, it's just so exciting because it's a cool position to be in. You get to participate and be part of the band, but you're still far, and feel that energy on stage, but you're still far enough away from being the front and center so you can look at the audience and enjoy and see what they're seeing and be. It's just amazing. Like, you just get goosebumps. As a matter of fact, it's so funny because, watch back at some of the people, the fans will they do Twitter and they tweet me some of the videos or they copy me on stuff that they've videotaped and there's me like standing in the back on the podium with the other backing singer, this girl Christina, and we're like banging our heads and we're dancing along and we, sometimes you forget other people are watching you because you're enjoying the music so much, you're having such a good time.
That is so cool. Is there more of that to come? I mean, is it going to come to America, any of that, or it's just going to do it, the couple festivals a year in Europe?
I think, right now I think he's doing more shows than he's done before over in Europe. He's doing 5 shows this year over in Europe. I know they were talking about doing some dates in America. We just switched agents because the agent we had was not really working out for us. So we'll see. I think we're with a pretty solid, I would like to say, and I'm knocking wood when I say this, with a pretty solid agent right now, so hopefully we'll be able to bring Rainbow. Because, it always winds up being where it's not the band and it's not the fans, it's the people in between that are doing the booking that are the problem,
Always, they book too much or they book too little, or you know what I mean?
Exactly, totally right. And so, once you find that right person that actually gets what you're doing, that understands what you need, and that makes it all happen, everything runs so smoothly at that point. It's just finding that person. It's like anything in life, it's like marriage, like you find the right person, your life can be, like this amazing amazing thing. You find the wrong person and you stick with that person, it can be absolute hell. So, we're kind of dating around until we find the right agent who gets everything that we need and that the fans want to see, the fans want to hear, and then we would love to bring it over here as well, because, again, it's not us and it's not the fans. The fans definitely want to see it again. It's finding that right person in between.
And you totally understand because, you are a fan. And the singer guy that you got, I mean, that guy, singing the Jolene Turner and the Dio stuff and the Bonnet stuff, with you on the background, it sounds really, really good.
Oh, yeah. He can handle it all. And you know how hard that is to be able to find something. He's even doing Child in Time, Gillan's song. It was amazing to see how versatile he can actually be. And the cool thing is that he's a fan from day one. Like, the reason that I found him in the first place, Richie and I were, like, sitting around 2 o'clock in the morning, just, after you put the kids to bed. That's our adult time. So we get to actually have conversation without someone going, Mommy, Mommy, every 5 seconds. So we finally had full-on adult conversation. And we were talking about, he was thinking about doing the Rainbow thing, and, a lot of fans had wanted to see it. And it's cool because we're at the point now where I think everybody knows what Blackmore's Night is all about. They know that Richie will do some rock and roll music on stage with Blackmore's Night, that he'll do electric guitar, but he'll also do folk, he'll do Renaissance, he'll do tavern music. It's a totally different experience than if you just go out to see a full-on rock and roll show. So I think now it's almost not as threatening to one band or the other band. Like they can both be, existing in their own kind of worlds, in their own realms,
No doubt. You can have the best of both worlds. You can go out and rock, and some of the audience is intertwined, but for the most part, it's pretty much two different camps.
Yeah, exactly. So when you go to see the Rainbow shows, you know that you're going to just full on out see the stuff that he's been doing for years. Right? I mean, the stuff that he's really known for, which is so amazing. And in Blackmore's Night, we kind of have our own following, but it's kind of like the people that are grassroots. Like, they found us through YouTube or through friends of friends, and it's almost like a Grateful Dead following, where they come to your shows and then they kind of like camp out with other people, like in their living rooms and stuff like that, and they hitch rides with other people, and it's just a totally different like mentality.
They have the Blackmore's Night VW buses coming soon.
We need to work on that one.
I would definitely.
So it was really cool because he said, we were talking like 2 a.m. and he said, it would be cool to do some of this stuff. He's like, but we got to find people, and so there's me on YouTube, and I actually found 3 singers, which I thought were amazing, like all 3 of them. And I played all 3 of them for Richie. And Ronnie, the reason I found him in the first place was that he was in a Rainbow, like Dio-esque Rainbow cover band, playing festivals or playing clubs or, in Spain. And I'm like, oh my God, listen to this guy. He sounds amazing. And then there were some tracks of him on YouTube that he had. It was just him in the studio singing some of these songs, Dio songs, but a cappella. You didn't hear the music track, so nothing could mask his voice, and you could there's no hiding, you could really full on out hear exactly what he could do, his range and the rasp and the whole deal. Richie's like, wow, he's pretty good. So I said, you know what? He said, can you get in touch with him? I'm like, it's 2 a.m. I don't know, so let me see what I can do. So I decided I'm like, how am I going to get in touch with this guy? Because you don't know if he's a total nutcase, you don't want to give him all your information and be like, call me, and then, all your info is out there on the internet because, he was, the wrong choice or whatever. So I followed him on Twitter, and about 2 seconds later, he folled me back. And now I'm like, this is weird because it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Well,
like,
it kind of validates, though, that you were legit because he sees, Candice Knight following him on Twitter, so now...
Exactly. And then I was able to, private message him, direct message.
Great.
So I'm like, hey, you probably don't know who I am, but I just wanted to, find out some information about you. And he writes back immediately, I know exactly who you are. So that's really what kind of started the whole, correspondence back and forth.
He must have been so excited, because, obviously if he's a Richie fan, he knows who you are. Obviously he's a cool guy because you guys are working with him.
He's a very cool, and it's funny, we had, some connections because he, I know he had a band called Lords of Black, and they had just opened a couple of years ago for Halloween, and I did that duet with Halloween.
I remember that.
Years back, with Light the Universe, which is such a great song. So we had little connections in the past that we could touch on. Oh my God, he was so excited. And the other thing I did to check him as a person, I went on his Facebook page, and his Facebook page was it was pictures of him and his wife and him and his little boy, and it was just so normal. There was no I'm wasted and throwing up on the Alamo or something. You know what I mean? It was nothing is stupid.
Right.
And he just seemed like a solid, like, solid guy who had good head on his shoulders, like could talk to you, like, whatever he was writing wasn't, didn't have swear words all over. It was just, he just seemed like a normal guy, like someone to be next door to you. So we flew him out when we were over in Germany on Blackmore's night tour, and we flew him to a castle. He sat down with us, and we went to a back room. Richie had the acoustic guitar. Richie went through some of the songs, like, I Surrender, or some of the Dio stuff, some of the Joe and Turner stuff, checked his range, like how his range was, and the guy just was pitch perfect in that room with us, and knew all the songs. The range was amazing, and just a total simple, nice guy. And we were like, wow, this could actually work out. And so that's really the path that we took. And we brought him out on stage, and he's been doing it. And he's so, funny, watching him on stage, it's almost like watching Freddie Mercury. He's got that, or even Paul Rogers for that matter. He's got that confidence.
Something, that's the first thing I thought of when you said that.
Right?
Like, obviously, sounded like Ronnie and Graham and all those guys. But what comes through his voice was like that warmth of Paul Rogers.
Yes, exactly. And even watching him, he's got that confidence where he could stand on stage and just sing, and he doesn't have to pull any, he doesn't have to, Richie calls it, like climb over the amplifiers and fly from the rafters and shake his fist at the audience. Like, that's all cool, but like Richie wants someone who's going to have that really awesome Paul Rogers kind of presence where you just stand and it's about the voice.
The substance, yeah. Is there talk of maybe doing a studio record, or at this time in the game, you just want to go out there and play the hits?
Well, I know at this point they did. They put out a couple of songs on iTunes.
Right,
they
last year, right?
Through Rainbow. One of them was the cover song. I think it was I Surrender. We wrote one song already called Waiting for a Sign, and they still haven't released that, so I'm still waiting to see what they're going to do with that one. And I think at this point, Richie is kind of taking it slow, and he might not just go into the studio and do like a full-on, 10 to 12 track album like all at one shot. He might. It looks to me like he might do like one track at a time kind of deal.
Yeah, test the waters, and then when you accumulate enough singles, then you could start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and now it becomes an album at that point.
Right, see how it goes, exactly. Because he still is loving doing Blackmore's Night, and he really doesn't want anything to take him away from that. Like,
I don't blame me and Amy in the early days, enough with this Deep Purple's Rainbow stuff. I mean, Richie's doing something really cool, it's something new, it's something that's it's two different worlds, you got the music from the past, and I'm so glad that for 20 years, I mean, it's validated, you have your own thing going on, your own following, you made a ton of records, putting out a 20-year compilation, and now being able to put that maybe possibly even back into your life, for a little bit, I think it's great, because now you could really enjoy the best of both worlds.
Exactly. He got enough time away from it where he's able to kind of revisit it and kind of see it fresh again instead of, because how it must be like if you're in a band and you have to play the same. I mean, I get that all the fans want to hear those hits. They want to hear Smoke on the Water, but for the person playing it to have to play Smoke on the Water or with the Rainbow stuff, like the same things again and again, night after night, if you're on tour like that,
right?
Like it's got to be a little bit trying for the guy on stage playing it all the time. Like Richie says, like Ian Anderson will put out a new record, and Richie will think, because I mean, Ian's such a musical genius too. Richie always looks up to Ian. He's amazing, and he actually played on one of our tracks on the first album. He played Play Minstrel Play, flute solo, which was brilliant. But Richie will be like, so Ian Anderson will have a new album out, and here's Aqualung. It's like it always winds up going back to the day, like way back in the day, and when he's got all this new stuff that he really kind of wants to indulge in and be creative with. So it's nice for him, I think, to get far enough away from it for a few years that now he can kind of revisit it and enjoy it, fresh all over again.
Well, let's play a little updated Rainbow. Let's go back to Birmingham 2016 since you've been gone. Keith Roth. Deep Purple action here in the Electric Ballroom. Keith Roth with Candice Knight. It's been a great co-host, great catching up finally after all these years. And with Deep Purple, I got to ask you a couple questions regarding Deep Purple, Candice. What exactly happened at the Hall of Fame? Like, why wasn't he there? Everybody wanted to see him there, and at least, just to go out and do the one number.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very, tenuous situation. I mean, first of all, we gotta bring credit to the fans who made that happen, because I think that they worked so hard for so many years. There was a page, induct Richie Blackmore into the Hall of Fame. They were they had thousands and thousands of followers. They would be voting for him every year. I mean, so they worked for a long time on that. I think one of the things that got to Richie, I think there was a couple of things, building blocks that happened. One of them was that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame waited so long that John was no longer with us.
Yeah, that sucks. That sucks.
is just awful. I mean, and you know, the fact that Purple, it's not like they're a new band. You know, they've been around forever. They were one of the first ones to incorporate classical. I mean, listen to his classical, you know, riffs and progressions that he's doing on Highway Star. I mean, they like we said, they created their own genre. You know, they were amazing. This is not a little band that, you know, you're just discovering and going, oh, let's bring some attention. Like, these guys they were a staple. They were, you know, they were a force to be reckoned with.
They're iconic.
And they've been around for decades.
Iconic.
Yeah, totally iconic. Exactly. Legendary. And so to wait this amount of time and then for John to have gotten pancreatic cancer and died, and you know, so he wouldn't even be able to enjoy that honor was, I think that kind of got to Richie where he was like, you know what, Richie was the founding member with John. It was the two of them that started this whole band.
Right.
And so I think that really kind of was like a big, you know, like knife in the heart for Richie to see that with John.
No, I totally understand that. You know, I mean, I totally understand. And it was nice how, you know, guys like Glenn Hughes were paying homage, which I thought was
yes.
cool. That was really cool. I mean, the word has it that Richie and Gillan kind of buried the hatchet. Is that true?
Yeah, well, a lot of times we think that that's true. I mean, honestly, from our perspective, you probably can read a lot of the interviews that Richie's done in the past, you know, since he hasn't been with Purple anymore. It'd be hard to find one where Richie doesn't say something about Gillan that, you know, like he just doesn't talk about him like
right.
in a negative context. He never does. Every once in a while, you know, we'll be told by somebody or something will come up on a flash on the internet where, you know, one of the guys over there will say something about Richie, and we're like, why? Like,
why? Right.
Like,
everything
why?
was going so nice, and you know, why dig up stuff from, you know?
Yeah. So I mean, it's never coming from over here. He's so far beyond it. Richie's always in the now. He's in the present. He's doing what he's doing, and he doesn't have time for the BS of whatever else is going on, gossip and rumor and all that stuff. But at this point, I would say that things are cool with everybody. I would like to say that. As far as I know, they are.
Well, you know, I mean, I know those guys are retiring, or they claim to be retiring, and I know, you know, I get the feeling that Steve Morse would love for Richie to come back in the band, and you know, just I think he wants to do the dregs. You know, I mean, I think he's been dragged through the meat grinder for so many years at this point. But I think if it ever came to the point where they actually do one last show, just one last show, I think it would be. I think all the fans would love to see, you know, him come out and do at least something.
Yeah, well, I think Richie's talked for a few years. He said, you know, he would be willing to go on stage and play a song, you know, do a couple of concerts with Purple.
He said it right on the show here. He said it on the show in the past that he would mind, you know, if it was a couple of shows, and as long as it doesn't turn into a whole, 30 dates and this and that, and it starts getting out of control, you know. One thing I want to ask you, because we're almost out of time, is, you know, you guys working with William Shatner and doing the great Bowie, with him, Space Oddity, was that a great experience for you? Did you actually work with William in the studio?
It was. They sent us over the track, and we just sat there and listened to it, and we were in awe. We were amazed, and we were like, we've got to do this. So I was able to do the backing vocals, and Richie did his amazing guitar part, and that was a tricky one for him. It's kind of like a little out of his comfort zone to do those chords and stuff, and solo over. You know, it was such a different kind of song than what he's used to.
Bowie was a genius, wasn't he?
I'm sorry?
Bowie was a genius. I mean,
amazing, and it goes like that. That song goes in such a different place than Richie would normally have it go, so for him to try to play along with that, but it sounded incredible, it sounded amazing, and we were just so happy with the way it came out, and I'm glad you brought that up, because not a lot of people know about that. It's like a hidden gem.
No, I mean, when I got the Shatner record, and I know Henry Rollins, who's like his biggest fan and his bestest buddy, Sunday football at Shatner's house, the way Rollins paints the picture is like, we'd want to be there. It's a lot of fun. But, when I got that, I heard that I saw your track, and I put it on, I was like, absolutely beautiful, phenomenal job on that. I thought that was great.
Thank you.
I have to play that during the show tonight for sure. If people are new to the band and you're listening right now to Candice, I mean, a good way to start is picking up this 20-year compilation of Blackmore's Night to the Moon and Back. Some great songs on there, and I mean, to me, the ultimate holiday soundtrack. If you just pick up the Blackmore's Night Winter Carols, it just puts you in a good frame of mind. The holidays will be bestowed upon you right away.
That's great. I love to hear that. My son's karate teacher said, and he's a big old tough karate guy. He said, when I heard this song, it actually brought me back to the magic of being a kid again. He said, not a lot of Christmas songs do that these days when you hear them on the radio. He said, but your album, actually, he goes, I could feel the wonder and the magic of the season all over again. I felt like I was a kid, and he just wanted to thank us for that. And I thought that was just put so perfectly.
And you know what? I completely agree, 100%. Well, Candice, why don't you pick one song from each right now?
Okay, let's see. I'm going to say, how about... Let me think about this. Oh my gosh, I got to go to my track list. Good King Wenceslas, I think, is a good one.
Which one, hon?
Good King Wenceslas.
Okay.
From Winter Carols. And how about Ghost of a Rose from To the Moon and Back?
I love that song. That sounds like great choices. Candice Knight helped me out with the playlist. And, I can't thank you so much. And hopefully it won't be like, another 10 years before we catch up.
No, let's do this again. Maybe we'll see you at the Christmas party this year, Keith.
Well, you know what? I would love to be there. I know I got some dates around the holidays myself, but I had such a great time, and I would love to be out with you guys in Long Island, having a beer and feeling the holiday spirit with Richie and Candice. That would be great.
And we'll make sure to make that pasta again so you can relax on the couch.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. It was a good time for all. Candice, it was really great hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Keith. It was great talking to you.
Hope to talk to you real soon, Candice.
Definitely. Merry Christmas. Have a great holiday.
You too, honey.